bag.
Yeah. Put your checkbook on the table, lady.
Black manhood is earned.
What?
As black men, we define ourselves based on our true history and tradition. As black men, we must lead with wisdom and at all costs protect our loved ones. There's a fear in America. There's a great fear of black men. Not black males, but black men. It's not the gang. It's not the thuggish or the antisocial behaviors. The threat is that real black men will stand up. Loving black men will rise to take back their community, to take back their children, and to lead as we are meant to do. We are meant to lead our nation. We were meant to protect our community. We were meant to direct our lives. From the belly of the beast came a system for the purpose of destruction. From this beast they live by this creed. At all costs destroy that big black man and the rest shall fall. He is the symbol of leadership. Deprive him and his children of their great history, and we shall forever control them. We must never underestimate the vicious energy and the intent to sabotage. Those out to destroy black men know that there is no defense against the black man. To those who are out to destroy us, the display of black manhood magnifies their insecurities. Due to their insecurities, they will try to destroy every element of black manhood at every given opportunity. They put tenacious energy in trying to degrade, humiliate, and dehumanize black men. I focus on the black man, but not to exclude the black woman. For the saboteur, the black man's head is priority kill. Black manhood shares commonality with manhood in other nations. Never before in the history of the world has the fear and slaughter been so great as what has been done to and with black men. The plantation continues to exist today, just as strong as ever, and their objectives are the same. Deprive them of the knowledge of self and perpetuate the ignorance. Exploit their vulnerability whenever possible. Reinforce every element of the struggle towards black men. There are many agents of the plantation that we must identify, reject, and at all costs eliminate. Some of the agents on this plantation that are out to destroy us look like us. We will call them black saboteurs, black males, or organisms, but they are not black men. You can't buy black manhood. You can't intimidate black manhood. There's a new type of Tomism on the plantation. These new Toms make the old Uncle Toms look like revolutionaries. They come in the form of drug dealers, child abusers, disrespectful organisms to our women, thugs, and gangbangers. These are the obvious Toms. There are other types of Toms that are somewhat camouflaged. They can come in the form of doctors, lawyers, corporate managers, politicians, educators, and other professionals. Your profession or occupation doesn't make you a conscientious black man. It's your morals and conviction, your integrity, and how well you are culturally grounded. These are things that you cannot purchase or get from university. These are things you acquire from awareness and commitment. It is important for us to strive toward and achieve whatever we want to pursue in life. We are incomplete without our manhood being in focus. With black manhood comes a great responsibility. Some can't live up to it. Some choose not to. Some run from it. We should not look for division, but we must be honest and establish direction. We should always keep our arms open to those who want to come back home. We must always have a system set up to be receptive to, teaching those who want to leave the plantation. But we should never compromise, never again turn our children over to those committed to destroying us. One of the most basic primitive rights is the nurturing of our children. Only fools would allow their children to be programmed to self-destruct. The selling of drugs is a good example of how the new Toms are being utilized. These sellouts are out to please their masters in return for the most minimal token. As black people, there is nothing we need that we can't provide for ourselves. These Toms learn from their masters and they will do anything to please them. We as black men have the power to eliminate these Toms and other agents of destruction. We as black men must eliminate all elements of destruction by any means necessary. There are people in so-called authority that could care less if we ever eliminated drugs and homicide in our community. There are a lot of people invested in drugs and homicides paying the black community. Crime is a big money business in America. There are communities in this country that have no black people living there as homeowners or residents, except for those who are incarcerated in the penal system. Many non-black communities fight like animals over express kills to get prisons built in their community. The only black citizens they are receptive to are the ones that are incarcerated. We need to understand the economic aspects. As black men, we need to advocate the knowledge that crime is a big money business. Welfare is a big money business. Many of the people and systems that are designated to provide support services to our community are not from our community, and frequently they perpetuate the problem. It is nobody's responsibility but ours to take care of our own. We live in a racist society. Let's not turn that inward and say, oh, poor me. We need to feel sorry for those who felt the need to be so vicious and cruel. We need to rise above the beastly behavior of the saboteurs. It is the saboteur of insecurity that has left him so empty until all he knows to do is to destroy. He will destroy if we allow him to. We are living sons of the first father, and that's why there is a call for all black men to rise. Thank you.
I'm so excited about that. In fact, when we came this evening, did not realize they were going to be modeling. They agreed to this, and it was just, speechless. Okay. What I'll be doing first is explaining the fabric that the model will be wearing. Whether you're originally from, thank you, what is the music? Where they originated from and how they're made. Next, the kings and queens will come out. After the short biography of what each of them has accomplished, they'll describe what they're wearing. There'll be 6 different scenes that'll be shown tonight. The first will be woven intake, the second will be tie-dye, the pink, print, adapted African design, and mudcloth. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the woven intake fabric. First of all, I want you to know that a lot of work goes into making the original
Sit down, Naya.
fabric. The cotton was first taken from the field and spun into thread. It is woven on looms. Some of the looms are as long as the stage, and some of them are about 5 feet in height. They either are spread out along the ground next to the loom, or they are strung from the tree. Now,
Turn around and watch. Watch the
not only
football.
women weave, mostly men weave in Africa. And the patterns we see are from mostly Nigeria and Ghana. Okay, so the first outfit will be modeled by, we'll start with King Alfonso. There's King Alfonso and Queen Makita. Let's start with King Alfonso. He was a visionary, a man who saw his country not as a group of separate cultures, but as a unified Christian nation, fully equipped with advanced knowledge and technology. He was the first ruler to modernize Black Africa on a grand scale and streamline political politics. He established one of the most modern school systems in Black Africa. A proud man, Alfonso later became the first Black ruler to resist the slave trade. Queen Makita, known as the Queen of Sheba, the Black Minerva, the Ethiopian Diana, or Makita the Beautiful. She was Queen of Ethiopia and Saba, and exceedingly rich. Her descendants ruled until modern times. Now, the dashiki that the king is wearing just brought out nicely in both of their dress. Wonderful job. I'm here is King Akhenaten and Queen Senga. King Akhenaten, Pharaoh of Egypt, he taught a doctrine of love and peace. He was the first ruler in recorded history to believe in the concept of one God. He was married to Queen Nefertiti, and he changed Egyptian culture so radically that their influence was felt centuries later. Zinga, a renowned warrior queen, led an army literally against the Portuguese who were seeking to invade what is now called Angola. She freed the country from European control. She preferred actually to dress as a man while she was in battle. She was out there with the guy in battle. And she remembered to be the most important personality of Angolan history. And doing an excellent job in being a queen. This highlighted a nice contrast in her dashiki. She has some hints of navy blue that are picked up in his dashiki. Thank you very much. Flag is used to resist time procedure. And we have here Queen Nefertiti and King Akia. Queen Nefertiti will start with first. Nefertiti means the beautiful one has come. Most historians only first focus on her beauty, but she was quite an accomplished lady. She established the world's first monotheistic religion and was married to King Akhenaten. She assumed the role of pharaoh after her husband's death. And she was the only queen addressed in prayer and therefore was deified while her husband was still alive. King Akia. King Akia. Where's King Akia? King Akia. Can't hear you. Okay. This is not King Akia. This is Mansa In 1324, Mansa led his people on a Hajj, a holy pilgrimage from Timbuktu to Mecca, with a caravan of 72,000 people. They were led 6,496 miles across the Sahara Desert and back, all in one piece. And the Queen and King are looking just beautiful today with silver accents, and the King's keys are picked up in the Queen's outfit. Now this fabric in particular is reserved for royalty. Thank you very much. Okay, we have another king and queen in also the same boutique design, King Menelik and Queen Hatshepsut. I think I've introduced them before, so they can take their walk. Look at the wonderful queen on the bottom of the queen's outfit. She has a beautiful matching headdress out of the same material. And again, the wax is used to get those patterns so perfect instead of the tie-on. The king has coordinated a boutique outfit in French design. To the African people,
Okay, there we go.
were known for being improvisers. And the king is doing an excellent job. are very creative. Thank you very much. Now we have a quick design. April. And then April symbol. We have Queen Makita and Queen of Hearts. Gorgeous. Now the queen has a three-piece outfit on. Make sure you see the pants. In case you don't want to show your legs one night, you get your pants. You'll match perfectly with your butterfly dress. And she has a wonderful matching head wrap. The king is on shape. Notice how he has a wonderful necklace on with the mask. Those are all hand done. If you look closely at the king Gashiki, he has some symbols printed on there. Those symbols stand for the omnipotence of God. Thank you very much. Why instead, wash perspective and distribution of these branches like a brownish color. Then what is selected? Actually, not selected. Right? Clean it on and get up. Yes, and the king. And there's wonderful blood-cloth outfit. The queen has a wonderful skirt to match her long jacket. And notice the back of her jacket has the Africa map. And she has tassels coming from her skirt with gold-plated Asante mask. And her neck goes into the authentic blood cloth as well. The king is not wearing an authentic blood cloth, he's wearing a print blood cloth, but it's quite take one whole year. But it still looks very good, very attractive. And again, the blood cloth was worn by royalty. And it stands out so beautifully. The queen also has a matching blood cloth skirt. She said they're accessorized wonderfully. Thank you very much, King and Queen. Yes. And convertible outfit. And Queen Nefertiti, look at that hat, ladies and gentlemen, the angle on that hat. This is a swing jacket. Notice the matching earrings. The matching earrings have been hand-painted. The matching necklace. You should have on a matching bracelet. Does she have on a matching bracelet? Yes, ladies and gentlemen. That's beautiful. Oh, be careful. There they are. Wonderful. So beautiful. I'm going to stay up on the stage here. Thank you. Yeah, please stand up on the stage. Okay. Is everybody? Okay, let's give them all a round of applause. Okay, this is one. We saved for the very last, a very special outfit. It's called the Babariga outfit. It's from Ghana. See, it's a royal couple ready. From Ghana, it's beautiful embroidery. They're coming, okay. King and Queen. Special moment here. Waiting. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Rolls Royce. Okay, now I'd like to thank all the many people who went helped the others, thank you, Annie, Jeremy, all the jewelry, and coordinating all these lives.
Dealing with the biblical, the historical, and the modern perspectives and identification of we as people of color. We as the black people are a great people. One of the things I thoroughly enjoyed in the presentation this evening, the speech that the young man gave, Pastor Schroder went for, was that many things that were said in both of those areas were very educational. I would like to say something very quickly before I move on. I want to rehearse to you a conversation that I had with a young lady who's in junior high school. This was over this past summer. And I began to ask her some questions to see just what is being taught in our educational system, even in this day and time. I'm finding, ladies and gentlemen, that one of the main problems that is happening we as the black people is that in many areas we have been miseducated. We fail to recognize how important education is. Because in many areas we have been miseducated, because in so many areas we are not exposed to certain things. Or not recognize the accomplishments of we as people of color in this country of America. I believe that these are one of the things that contribute to low self-esteem. In other words, feeling your worth. Somebody can talk to this young lady over this past while I began to ask her, do you know who Abraham Lincoln is? Of course, the first question was yes. You know who George Washington is? You know who Thomas Jefferson is? You know who all of these Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison, all of these people that were drilled into our conscious as children coming up in grade school. And of course, the answer to all those questions was yes. Begin to ask her, do you know who Lewis Lattimore is? The question was no. Have you ever heard of Benjamin Banneker? The question was no. You know who Daniel Hale Williams is? Had no idea. And what I began to see, even in this generation of young people that are being brought up in today's educational system and today's society, that by and large, we have been given a biased educational system. We have not been totally educated. And then we begin to look back and review and begin to understand, or the lack of understanding as to why we as people of color have not been motivated in certain areas. It's because by and large, we have not been made to feel our worth as people. This is why it was so necessary, and I enjoyed so much the presentation that has gone forth to this point. The young man who gave the speech, the difference between a black man, a manhood, and just being a man. Something how to black manhood and being a man, something like that. Because there's a generic term, and then there is the responsible term. And I'm finding in this day and time that we're living in, we see some of the things that are happening now, see some of the things that are happening within our society. I believe it behooves us as people, as parents, as mothers and fathers, as sisters and brothers, to begin to reevaluate and begin to recognize that we as a people are not a cursed people. We are not on the bottom of the totem pole. We have not always been in the low state or lack of self-esteem. It's because by and large, we as a people have not recognized the accomplishments of our forefathers in this very country. Thank you. We begin to look at Dr. King, and I want to talk very quickly about living the dream that Dr. King began to present forth. And it was said in the presentation earlier tonight concerning the type of man that Dr. King was. Dr. King by no means was what we would refer to as a winner. Dr. King by no means was an individual that we would refer to as a drawback individual. He was a man who was man died for his conviction. Here was a man not only that he loved himself, but he loved his people. Here was a man that stood in the face of opposition. I never will forget, ladies and gentlemen, I was not living back in the days of the boycott, but I've reviewed it, I've looked at some of the speeches, I've read the history because I always love history. And I forget, very much remember in my mind the speech that Dr. King made, I believe it was Montgomery, Alabama, when the boycott was first being put together. And they assembled in the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And Dr. King made a speech similar to this. He said, if we are wrong, then the Constitution is wrong. If we are wrong, then the American society is wrong. If we are wrong, then the Bible is wrong. If we are wrong, then God Almighty is wrong. Here was a man who had such a strong conviction until he could make such bold statements because he realized that he was not wrong, but that he was right. And he also further realized that because he was right, the Constitution backed him. The Bible backed him. God backed him. So because he knew that he was not wrong, he could go forth in full thrust. I'm finding, ladies and gentlemen, as I began to review, and I was very much impressed very recently as I began to review over the cable television the summit that Reverend Jesse Jackson recently had in Washington, D.C. concerning black on black crime. There was a statistic that he put forth, and I'll read it to you in just a second. It declared that in America today, 19 out of 20 black males that are murdered by other black men. 19 out of 20 murders of black men. Black men, 19 out of 20 are murdered by other black men. Well, what begins to happen? Well, we've been programmed to self-destruct. I recall the words of a minister so I can help us go from the Bible, but Jesus said these words. Some of you probably have oftentimes heard it. Jesus said to love your neighbor as you love yourself. You know what the problem that's happening in America today? We as a black people have not been taught to love ourselves. So consequently, if people have not been taught to love themselves, it becomes extremely difficult, if not impossible, to love anything or anybody else, especially those that remind you of yourself. What do you mean by that? I think this as a people, again, going back to our history, what were we told? We were not told. We began to talk about black history. This by no means is a reflection on black history. This is not a form on black history. I certainly appreciate black history. But you not realize that when we begin to look at the attributes of Americans during Black History Month, in reality, that is not really black history. Let me look at me because you don't get what I'm saying. I'm going to go a little further. A lot of things that we give attributes to during Black History Month. We talk about Frederick Douglass. We talk about Benjamin Banneker. We talk about Louis Lattimore. We talk about Daniel Hillel Williams. We talk about Booker T. Washington. We talk about Dr. King. We talk about Malcolm X. But that is not really black history. What that actually is, see, one of the things you must understand is that these individuals that did the great inventions that they did were black Americans. Now, that is not black history per se. Because when you're talking about black history, you've got to go further back than just the days of slavery. If you're going to talk about black history, you cannot just focus on things that have been accomplished by black Americans here in this country, which in reality is not black history, it's American history by black Americans, which should in fact already be incorporated in the regular history that is taught to our young people today. You see? We should already know this. Again, remember the scenario that I gave you concerning the young lady that I spoke with. She knew who Abraham Lincoln was. She knew who Thomas Jefferson was, Benjamin Franklin. Why? Because as first graders, as second graders, as third graders, in kindergarten, all the way through high school, we were told this. When it came time for the Constitution test, we were told this. When it came time for the U.S. history test, we were told this. When it came time for our test in 5th grade, our test in 7th grade, our test in 9th grade, we were all told who these individuals were. But what we failed to recognize was that America would not be America had it not been for black America. What we failed to recognize that the point that America has come to this point has not come strictly on the shoulders or on the labor, on the mindset of just one type of individual. This country of America has come this far, in most cases, as a result of the mind and the ingenuity and the inventions and the labor and the strength and the courage of black Americans. So we begin to look and begin to see how far has the dream come. Let's begin to examine. Let's begin to look. We can start first of all in 1955. I've said this to congregations that I've ministered to. I've said this in various assemblies that I've talked to. And I said, you know, I think it would be extremely difficult for us to put on it if the CTA decided to segregate the buses and segregate the L trains. And if the CTA decided to or some of the other areas decided to segregate. The downtown Hilton Hotel decided to segregate the rooms and segregate the floors. I said, you know, it would be difficult for us to put on now what the black people in Selma, Alabama, and Montgomery, Alabama put on during the bus boycotts in 1955. You know why? Because in many cases, we've been divided. In many cases, we have not been taught to stand together. When you begin to look at the bus boycotts, and again, I wasn't looking at that particular time, but I studied it, and I heard the testimonies that have been there. These people as a whole got tired of those circumstances. They got tired of being discriminated against. And even though they recognized that what they were going to have to do to unify, it was going to cost them a great price, and some of them might not have lived to see the benefits, they solidified. They came together. Many of them that did not ride that bus, they had to walk miles to get to their destinations. They had to walk miles to get to the grocery store, to get downtown shopping, to get to their jobs. They had to walk sometime in the heat of the day, sometime in the cool of the winter, sometime in the heat of the summer. But understand the bus boycott lasted over 1 year. You look at now, what would it have been like if we decided to have a strike against Nike gym shoes? Some will say, man, I'm not to have my Nikes, man. I ain't gonna do it, man. I gotta wear my Nikes. We decided to boycott against some of the t-shirt companies, some of the gym shoe companies. Interesting note about those gym shoes. Let me say this to you. You may go out, parents, and spend $125 on those gym shoes. And I can say this because I've got a little bit of insight concerning the matter. But we may sit down and go out and pay $125 and $150 for those gym shoes, and it only costs them about $13 to make those gym shoes. So what is that? A lot of time we're exploited. Mr. Tony Brown made this statement. I want to share this with you as I'm preparing to bring this to a close, and I'm cutting this very short. But Mr. Tony Brown made a statement. Some of you remember Tony Brown or Tony Brown's Journal. He did a study concerning black dollars in this country of America. In his study, and I say this in my book, he discovered that out of all of the black earned dollars, only 6% of all black earned dollars are re-spent in the black community. Let me say that again, because I want you to get what I'm saying here. Out of all of the black earned dollars, out of all of the dollars that are made by black hands, out of all of the dollars that are made black paychecks that fall into black hands, only 6% of all black earned dollars are re-spent in the black community. What does that mean? That means the whole 94% of all black earned dollars that are earned are put in someone else's hands. Number two, he did a study concerning how long a dollar stays in the average in a particular community. He discovered in his study that a dollar stays in, say, for example, the Jewish community, a dollar will stay in the Jewish community about 9 days. But a dollar will stay in the black community on an average of about 9 hours. So what does that mean? In 9 hours, a whole 94% of all black earned dollars leave the black community. Within 9 hours, a whole 94% of all black earned dollars leave the black community and wind up in someone else's hands. So now we begin to look and see what is happening to us. It goes further, ladies and gentlemen. Do I believe the way that we as a people have been taught to think? Now that we begin to look at the dreams, and now that we begin to look at history, and some of us just let it go by, we hear it, we don't hear it. And I've even had this happen, and when I've gone to churches and have ministered, I've gone to minister certain areas, and I do a lecture on biblical blackness, identifying personations of color in the scripture. And oftentimes as I've gone to churches, I felt a rift, I felt trouble, I felt cold shoulders even from our own people, because the first thing they say to us is, well, what did you offer to that black thing for? But I want you to understand something. Unless we as a people start to love one another and start to understand that we are not a cursed people, but we are a great people, and start to understand that we as a people have come this far not because of our intelligence or our know-how, but because God himself has put his hands upon us and has brought us to this point. And we must recognize and look at one another and not start to make merchandise of one another, not start to destroy one another. As I bring this to a close, ladies and gentlemen, again, our mindset, the way we've been taught to think, we're killed by each other because of the lack of self-love. Our motivation is projected. We made the mistake of letting America tell us who our role models are. We made the mistake of letting the gym shoe company, the soft drink company, the t-shirt company, we've let them tell our black children who their role models are. I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how much Gatorade you drink, ain't none of you going to be like Mike. I don't care what type of gym shoes you put on. It's not going to make you play Charles Barkley. What has happened? We let America tell our young people who the role models are. America told our young folks, be like Mike. America told our young folks, if you want to make it big, all of our young men to play basketball. The only way that you young men are going to make it is either play basketball or push dope. That's something that has been put into our mindset. Because why? Every time we turn on television, when you see a black man on television, if he's not a comedian, he's a super lover. If he's not a super lover, he's a dope pusher. He's a pimp. And a lot of times the television is what is educating our children more than the school system. We as parents have got to take time to educate our children and put some values in them. And let them understand that as a black child, just like Dr. King lived the dream, even though he did not live to see the dream come to pass, the dream can be fulfilled in you. In my conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as I prepare to take my seat, I remember Paul very much in the Bible. But God made a promise to Abraham the prophet. And God made the promise to Abraham the prophet. He said, I'm going to multiply your seed. And many nations shall come from you. And your seed shall be greater in number than the sands of the sea. And God made many promises and many covenants with Abraham. Now, Abraham did not live to see all of those promises. But what happened? Those promises that were promised Abraham came forth generations later. Young people, let me say this to you. You have an opportunity to become educated where your parents and grandparents did not have the opportunity that you had. You have an opportunity to better yourself and excel in some areas and to do some things and to be set in places that your parents and your grandparents did not have that opportunity. Now, don't you for one moment feel like you've come this far because you're so smart. Don't you for one moment feel like you've come this far because things are so easy for you. Don't you for one moment feel like that you're able to do what you do and the opportunities that are set before you have just always been there. You have come this far because the previous generation knew how to pray for you. And some of those things they did not live to see, but they're coming alive in this generation. Dr. King did not live to see the dream. Dr. King did not live to see everything come to pass. The things that he spoke of in his speech, the things that he marched for, the things that he lived for, the things that he went to jail for, the things that he was bricked for, the things that he died for. A lot of those things he did not live to see. But now, ladies and gentlemen, now, brothers and sisters, the opportunity is before us. And by no means do we want to take the dream and kill each other with it. By no means do we want to take the dream and destroy each other with dope and drug addiction. By no means do we want to take the dream and destroy ourselves with alcoholism. By no means do we want to take the dream and destroy each other with child abuse. By no means do we want to take the dream and let it come to nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, the dream is still born, but the dream must come alive in us. God bless you. Thank you very much.